word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's your boy Ernie, the Blerd Without Fear. Welcome back to the channel. Alright, so I want to talk about what's been going on with the Sam Wilson Captain America series. This is a book that I started covering early on when it started. I covered the first 2 issues of it, and I kind of stopped afterward, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but really just more because there was just other stuff to do, and I was tired. I just got done filming back-to-back hour-long Black History Month editions of character deep dives, and I was just, I was burnt out. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. But I came back to the series just in time for its conclusion with issue number 5. Something very interesting happened in it, and I don't really see a lot of people talking about it, which kind of lets me know a lot of people weren't really checking for the series. But a new character that was introduced, Billie, who is the cousin of Sam Wilson, she got a bit of a glow up by the time we got to the end of issue 5. During the battle against Eagle Star, when the sky base that they had built that they were using, it was basically a sky farm that was being used by Eagle Star to mind control black and brown people and force them to work on a farm, essentially giving them their quotey fingers 40 acres and a mule, but doing it in a way that benefited a white-owned company. It was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. There was even a point where Captain America, Sam Wilson, and Josiah X, the son of Isaiah Bradley, the first black Captain America, now going by the name the Shadow Soldier, even he got caught up in it, as well as Falcon and Billie herself. They basically all were caught up in it and were being forced to farm and basically act as slaves, even being referred to as you people. Well, there was a couple of really cool things that came out of this. I really want to focus on the Billie part of it first. I'll talk a little bit about the Josiah X part of it a little bit later in this, because there's not really a lot of information to go on. But when Sam and the rest of the gang were able to stop Eagle Star, they needed a way to get off of it. But the doctor who was working with Eagle Star, Dr. Gwendolyn Kangza, she ended up turning over a new leaf by the time we got to the end of the series. She initially was kind of all in on what Eagle Star was doing because she understood the technology that she had in her possession was something that the rest of the world could use, could need. Dr. Kangza understands that the world is actually on a collision course with ecological disaster, and that's why she's working with Eagle Star the way she is, because, well, yes, what Eagle Star is doing is wrong. At the end of the day, what they're doing is also helpful to the Earth itself, and that's what she's more concerned with, is saving the Earth so that future generations will actually have one, as opposed to a dumpster fire of an ecological disaster. That's how she justifies what she does. But by the time we get to the end of this all, she ends up turning around on it. She realizes that there's only one way that she can make up for the things that she's done. Both her and Billie are trapped on the ship as it's crashing. And Dr. Kangza, recognizing that she had taken away a lot of people's agency and effectively enslaved people in order to achieve her goals, even if her goals were actually something that should be strived for, she went about it the wrong way. So she decides that the only way she's gonna be able to make up for what she's done is to turn Billie into one of her war angels, albeit minus the mind control. This was all done in an effort to give Billie a fair chance at escape, since it seemed like at the time the base was going to crash and kill everyone who's still on it. The War Angels were something that we actually saw in some of the previous issues. These were soldiers that had wings like the X-Man Angel. Wings more like what he originally had, not the metal ones he has as Archangel. And now Billie technically is super. The wings seem to stick with her after she escapes the Eagle Star base, and she still has them when she touches down on the ground later. We even see later when going to go visit his grandfather, we see later that her wings are still present and something that she can actually control whether she has them out or not. We see at a later point in the issue towards the end, we see where they're doing some community outreach and she doesn't have her wings present, but later on by the end of the issue, she has them back again. So it seems like Billie might be replacing Falcon, or at the very least, being an addition to Falcon in the future. We don't know where this is going to go because this is the end of the series. So if Billie shows up again as a hero, it will, it could be the case, it could not be the case. But by the time we get to the end of this, Joaquin Torres is not around me. He is there, but he's not flying off with Sam into the skyline. It's Billie who's flying off with him, as well as Red Wing. So I don't know. This is setting up a new status quo for Sam, giving him a sidekick who is more family than just a friend. Whether or not this gave her any other powers is another story altogether. All we know is that she now has bird DNA, and we know this because in the finale, while dealing with the other war angels that were created by Eagle Star, Falcon Joaquin Torres brings up that these people have bird DNA, so likely Sam's avian telepathy will probably work on them. And it's never really touched on any more than that, so we know that whatever is going on with Billie, she is no longer 100% human. She likely has the same bird DNA that they have, and maybe even something similar to what Joaquin Torres has, though his comes from very completely different circumstances. And this also means that now Sam can communicate with Billie telepathically. We don't really know what other abilities these war angels have. All we know is that they can fly, they seem to have at least some level of durability, and maybe some level of enhanced strength, but that's something we're gonna have to wait and see. Part of me can't help but wonder what this means for Joaquin's place by Falcon's side as a sidekick. It was one of those situations where it kind of seemed like they were working together. By the time this series started off, it seemed like they had split up for one reason or another. It didn't really seem to make a whole heap of a lot of sense. And Joaquin was doing his own thing, Sam was doing his own thing. With how Marvel has been trying to have a little bit of parity with the MCU as of late, considering that Joaquin Torres' stock is rising up a little bit after the events of Captain America Brave New World. I kind of wonder, like, okay, well, we're bringing in this new sidekick for Sam to be hanging out with. Is the next time we see Sam Wilson with a solo series, is it going to be Sam Wilson, Captain America, and the Falcons? Like, what's going to be the deal? Either way, I'm here for it. Another interesting thing that comes up in this as well, we learn a little bit more about why Josiah X is now known as the Shadow Soldier, and it's because by the time we get to the end of the issue, we now know how he's been able to kind of slip in and out of places unnoticed. In issue number 4 of Sam Wilson Captain America, we saw that the shield that Josiah X is wielding, which is this all black, just pure ebon shield, at first it almost made me wonder if he had somehow gotten access to a symbiote, but we are immediately told after we first see it emitting this inky substance that it's actually Dark Force energy. Doesn't really ever get explained, it doesn't ever really get addressed. It's one of those things that once it comes up and we see it in use, Josiah basically says, you don't want to know. And we get to see him use the Dark Force energy in ways that we have seen characters like Cloak use Dark Force before. And it's a really cool thing. It's pretty neat. I don't know if we're ever going to see any more of this or if this whole Shadow Soldier thing is going to stick, but it is a nice status quo shift for Josiah X. I just hope this isn't one of those things that gets done and then ultimately forgotten about for all time to come, and we just never see hide nor hair of him again. That, once again, that's a whole story altogether. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with this. Once again, this series is done. Going forward for Sam himself, his journey will continue in the Avengers series by Jed MacKay, and he's getting a new suit, which I honestly think should be his suit going forward, period. I actually really like this version of the Captain America fit for him. And yeah, I don't know what's going to be happening next with Sam in the MCU, but outside of him leading an Avengers team, but this needs to be the suit that he rocks in the MCU. That's the only that's the only assignment from here on out with Sam Wilson. I would be 100% here for it.